Coming up, it's all about you.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Hey, Shaun Priest.
What? Oh, sorry. Hello, Stephen Scott. How are you?
I love how professional we are at this. Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome along. It's another double tap for another day, and I am excited. Why? Because today it's all about emails.
Email. We get email. We get your email every day.
Ding dong.
Here's your mail today.
Ew.
You know the number of people who ask me, okay, where did that jingle come from? The origin story of this jingle is kind of amusing. Maybe we'll do like a special episode one day where we'll tell you the behind the scenes of Double Tap. I mean, we tell you pretty much everything anyway, but yeah.
It's our jingle. I've got to say, it's come with us a long way, and I love it.
It has. It's travelled with us.
Although it's
far
not
and
actually accurate anymore.
No.
Because it's not just emails.
No, voicemails, WhatsApp messages.
Yep. It needs updating, Stephen Scott. A bit of a, drum and bass behind it, maybe. Something like that.
I think we may have a solution to that coming.
Oh.
Just saying.
Oh, just a little teaser.
Hashtag just saying. Might something coming on that one down the line. But yes, we will talk about that another day when we invite the relevant people on board with us to talk about it.
Okay,
That's become very mysterious. Yeah, someone got in touch and said, hey, we could do an email jingle for you. That was basically it, right? But, I cloak it in mystique for you.
Oh, that was nice. Okay, emails.
Yeah. Okay, let's just dive right in, because honestly, I don't know where to start, but I'm just going to randomly pick one. There we are, here's one.
Hey, Stephen and Shaun, hope you guys are living well. Hey, I'm wrestling with something related to, my cybersecurity studies and getting a job. So I'm in the process of studying for my Network Plus and Security Plus certifications. And the instructor emailed and said, in a few weeks we'll get you to send over your resume, and then when you start the Security Plus half of the certifications, we will look into finding you employment. Great. However, I've got a couple of other people in my ears saying, while those are kind words, the likelihood of you actually finding a job is pretty slim, being that you're totally blind. So I just wanted your feedback. If, should I do the class and get my Network Plus and Security Plus certs? Or what's the vibe? So, let's dive in. Let me know. And, see ya.
Wow. I don't even know where to start on that one. I mean, look, we're talking about attitudes here, aren't we? We're just talking about individual attitudes and how people will just assume that we are entirely incapable, and that, even the fact you're on the course is probably a bit of a gift from someone anyway, just to give you something to do. Clearly you're going to go off and tune pianos or weave baskets for the rest of your life. And, this is just a little blip in the middle of it. What a horrible thing to say to people, but that is unfortunately what you've experienced there. Is something that I think a lot of us who've been blind or low vision most of our lives, if not all our lives, have faced and will continue to face. This is the important bit, I think. We will continue to face this attitude wherever we go. When I started out, when I was in secondary school, I had gone to my guidance teacher and I said, I really want to get into radio. And she just laughed her face off.
Well done.
Although she was talking out of the other end of it. And she was laughing her head off, saying, "Oh, well, I mean, that's quite a big job, and it involves a lot. And I know," she said, "it's audio based, so you think it's easy, but there's a lot of work involved in that, and I don't think that's going to be something you could manage." And I was discouraged. In fact, what she said to me was, "Learn to type, because the best you'll ever be," these were her words, remember them like yesterday, "the best you'll ever be is a secretary. Someone in an admin job." Now, first off, I don't think that's a bad job. If I got into that job, I'd be quite happy. In fact, I remember doing a little bit of that because they actually pushed me into doing work experience. So they would say, go and do work experience in these kind of roles. And I actually quite enjoyed it. And that's probably something I would have enjoyed doing.
I did audio typing as part of the touch typing.
Well, I loved answering the phones. I actually went for a job at a company, one of these call center jobs. and they told me that they'd love to hire me, but unfortunately I talk too much.
Wow. There is targets to hit, Stephen Scott.
Well, that was it. I had spent like an hour on the phone with someone, and I was giving them a whole routine. I was, we were having some fun. We solved
Told
the
them
problems.
what you had for breakfast.
Yeah,
and,
I had deep conversations about things that were completely irrelevant to their question. And at the end of the call, the person said, if we had no desire to make money, we would love to employ you. But since we do, we can't employ you. But the point is, look, the point is that you're going to face these attitudes where people just, like my guidance teacher said, look, it's not going to happen. And when I got my job in radio, I finally got my first gig in radio, I marched back into that school with the radio station jacket. In those days, we had jackets. You go back into the school, and I went to that guidance teacher and I said, I did it. I managed it. And basically, screw you. And I said, don't, and I said to her, don't ever belittle the potential of someone again. Don't ever do that. And years later, about 4 or 5 years later, I was asked to go back to the school to speak about the school had been, the building itself had been closed down, and they were moving the whole facility to somewhere else. And they wanted to kind of, have a bit of a look back at the time. And I cited this particular teacher who was in the room at the time. I cited her and I said,
awkward.
I hope that never happens again. Because I said, although I will say one thing, what she did do was she lit a fire under my backside because I was determined to do it after she said I couldn't. As soon as I was told, you can't do this, I was determined to do it. So in some ways, it's her fault that I'm in this position, that I'm talking to you today and you're having to listen to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, if she had said, actually, you know what? I think that's a great idea. Good luck. I would have probably said, screw you, I'm going to be a secretary. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just know it does hit you. And look, I think it depends on the individual, right? Because, we're all different. So some people will take that advice, or not advice, but they'll take that viewpoint and they'll just say, oh, well, that's it then. That's all I can do. This is it.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
And there's others who'll fight against it. I would encourage you to fight against it. Fight the urge. I don't mean fight against anybody or anyone, but fight it in your mind. Fight it in your mind. Push back against it and say, no, I can do this. There is a chance you will get a job. No doubt at all you will get a job. Don't let one person's ignorance get in the way of what could be an amazing career for you. Because I certainly think I would have kicked myself if I'd have found out in some way or another that I could have got into this gig. I could have done the thing I wanted to do. But I actually allowed myself to get in the way of it. And I would have done. Because at the end of the day, I'm only able to react to other people's comments, right? When you're blind, you face a lot of this. You face these ridiculous things that people say. They say horrible things, and they may come across as even well-meaning sometimes. I didn't know you had an education. Oh, you went to school. That's impressive. Oh, you managed to put that shirt on yourself today. Well done. You bought a bottle of water. Well done. I've had all that, and I can choose to react to every single little thing, or I can say, do you know what? I'm going to accept that the world is not perfect. I'm not perfect. They're not perfect. And my reaction to that is going to be, okay, fine, I get it. And, this is the life we live. Because I can't react to every single little thing, but what I can do is be determined in what I want to do. And that's something you're going to have to learn to do, I think. And I would strongly encourage you to keep the dream if this is what you want to do.
Well, that's the point. I find it really interesting, that sort of, I think we were both biting our tongues when that email finished, right? It's like, it's just one of those examples of people's attitudes. But again, it does depend on the context, because it could have been, and look, let's be realistic, the employment stats in our community, as we all know, it could be difficult. But the point is, if you want to do it, you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. Yes, it may be difficult. You might have a fight on your hands actually finding a company that will take a risk as they see it with you. But you know what? If you don't have those certifications, those qualifications, then of course you won't.
Yeah.
If it's something you want to do, of course you can do it. It doesn't matter.
Also failing is okay too. All right?
Yeah,
I mean, failing on your own terms, I think, is fine. I mean, look, I've tried things in my time I wanted to try, didn't work out. I wanted to get into management at one time in radio. I absolutely hated it. I did not enjoy it at all. I decided it just wasn't for me because I realized that listening to other people's problems wasn't really of interest to me.
No, you're a talker, not a listener.
Exactly. I'm a taker, not a giver. I'm just like, no, I'm not interested. I don't care about your problems. I've got my own problems and go away. But that's I think it's fine if you fail on your own terms or you win on your own terms. But I think the problem is we're so, and this is not unique to blind people. This is the case for so many people out there. And it can be, this is some ways the problems with I talk about identity politics and the challenges that we face because we end up putting ourselves into these boxes. So therefore it's a case of, well, if you're black or you're from a poor background or you're a woman or there's always something which precedes it. The reality is there are many people who are black, who came from poor backgrounds, who are women, who are blind, who are disabled, who've gone on to have great, successful careers. It is all down to your own determination to do and go and fight for it. And that is on you. So if you've got the drive and you want to do it, yes, you're going to get these knocks along the way, but shake it off. I always think to myself, think of the worst. This is what I think about in any bad situation in my life. I always tend to do this. I tend to stop and think, right, imagine you got the worst news. Your mum had passed away, like in the next 10 minutes. Would whatever just happened matter? And the answer to most of these situations, if not all of them, is no. It wouldn't matter because there are bigger, more important things in your life that matter more. And I think that's the perspective I tend to lean my life on, which is this going to be important to me in 10 minutes? Am I going to remember this in 5 years? Am I going to remember it in a year? 5 minutes? Probably not. So you got to try, and it's difficult. I know it's difficult because it can haunt you, and you have that doubt. And I know people who work in businesses, blind people who've worked in business before. I remember, I will mention because he did talk about it on the show, but I don't want to cite him specifically here because I don't want to bring up his own story without him being here. But this guy had got in touch with us on the show. He was talking about working in an environment full of IT professionals, and he had come up with this idea for an app that could allow him to know if he was centered on screen or on camera. This was, of course, at the height of lockdown. People were locked in. He was trying to use and be on every Zoom and team meeting he had to be on. And he said he came up with this idea for this app because he didn't want to keep asking his colleagues, can you help me with this? Because he said at some point, he's worried. He's not concerned. He doesn't know what they're thinking, but he's assuming that they're looking at him going, well, if you can't work this out, how can you do your job? And I think in blind world, we are often treated this way. I've had few experiences in my life, many experiences actually, where people do, you do get that feeling that you're being tested. It's like, again, it goes back to the hospital experience recently. Do you have stairs at home? How do you manage with them? It feels like, is this a test? Am I going to go home and find social workers sitting waiting for me, ready to throw me in a care home? I worry about it. I genuinely end up worrying about it because you think, well, hang on, these perceptions can lead to actual action. Yeah. That's the problem, right? Perception's one thing. You can bat it away to some degree, but then there is that fear of this could come. I mean, we've talked about it before with blind parents who, they have a child and then all of a sudden there's someone standing at the door saying, are you able to have a child? Are you able to look after a child?
Yeah.
So, we live with that fear, but we have to bat back against it. We really do.
And you definitely should.
Go for it.
I'm sure a lot of those people are even wondering, well, can you even use a computer or whatever?
Yes.
It's just they do not know. You do. So, you go for it.
Yeah. Good luck with it. I didn't catch your name on there. I think I know who you might be, but I don't want to assume. So we're not going to say your name, but thank you for that. And good luck. Let us know how you got on. Okay, let's move on. Charles is here.
Hey, gents. Charles from Ohio here. Just chiming in to say, wonderful interview with Connor Scott Gardner. Thank you very much for covering the RNIB updated information. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Keep up the great work.
Oh, well,
thank you. That was short and sweet. Thank you.
It was. I was expecting more. Yes, so that's regarding the decision that they did make and later reversed on charging for or farming out the Braille transcription service to third party. Still going to be third party, but RNIB are going to fund it completely, at least for 12 months.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that story as we learn more about it, but that's the situation so far. Stan's up next.
Hello, Shaun, and hello, Stephen, and I'm reacting to something you said on the April 25th. I don't have a problem with blind or visually impaired, though I am blind. No amount of, I don't have any amount of vision, so I don't mind being called blind. But here's where the visually impaired thing can cause a problem. Several years ago, I was doing some paid research for our local genealogy library. And everybody was about to leave, and I thought that they were coming back in because normally they would come back maybe to get their purses or whatever paraphernalia they had. Well, unbeknownst to me, they walked out, leaving me in the library, and my ride was about to come to the library. So I started to walk out, and thus the alarm was triggered. And that meant that the local constabulary was dispatched. The alarm was going off. The police were there. My ride was there. The driver told the policeman that there was a visually impaired person in the library who was coming out of there. Well, they just heard the word impaired. If he had said a blind person was in the library, they wouldn't have attached the meaning of impaired to the way that they attached it, because they thought there was this person who was like full of Obi Joyful juice, alcohol, whatever, and he was impaired. So what happens? They had to see me walk out of the library. Then they knew it was a blind person who was making his way down to the ride. And so thus I was allowed to go home. Now, in a way, maybe it would have been better off if they would have carted me away, and I could have sued the police department and be provided with a lot more money that I currently don't have. And but that's where sometimes using the word blind isn't all bad. Now, I don't care, for the most part, if someone says blind or visually impaired. There are bigger fish for me to fry, but I don't mind being called blind. And I think telling people that they should say the word blind or visually impaired, I'm not up for doing that. I don't agree with that, your comments, especially Stephen, in that respect. But I think, as I always tell people, life is all about context. That's what I want on my tombstone. Life is all about context. And with that, I will end my ramblings and tell both of you, Shaun and Stephen, to have a wonderful day. And I always enjoy listening to your program, even if I find that Stephen is sometimes hyperbolic. But hyperbolic isn't all bad. Oh. Anyway, take care. Bye.
Does that mean I'm a giant tunnel through Las Vegas? I'm confused. What is hyperbolic? I need to buy a dictionary around here. You people are too clever.
I know. Too intellectual for us. Yeah, of course. I mean, that is a good example, right? Visually impaired is a spectrum. It can mean so many different things. It doesn't, whereas blind just means blind for the general public. I mean, it gets the point across. So, yeah, I totally understand your point there.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm not sure where we disagree on this, Stan. I think from my point of view, as I've said before, the whole language thing is just a nonsense. The debate that often rages in the blind community, and I've seen it particularly raised by the National Federation of the Blind, only because, if I'm honest, they're one of the few organizations in the world that is genuinely led by blind people. So yes, you tend to hear more about these topics, and I think more power to them for that. But, we don't have to agree on it, and I don't agree necessarily. And look, I know that not everyone in that organization agrees either. These are resolutions. These are things put up at convention that essentially, lead the conversation at those events. It's not the view of the entire organization. There is a vote, and they decide on what issues they're going to debate, discuss, and continue on and work on. But, you know, I know that you wouldn't say that every single person agrees with that particular view. That would be correct to say, I think. But as far as I'm concerned, I think it just adds confusion to things. I think it just adds more confusion. Don't say this, don't say that, don't use this word. And the problem is, you know, the perfect example is people not using the word blind. They're not using it because they think it's a bad word.
Yeah, think it's going to offend someone. When in fact,
and this is the problem. So you say
right
to
word
someone,
to use.
but again, you got to look at where people are on these things, right? You got to look at it from their point of view a little bit and say, right, okay, so you're telling someone that using the word blind is great. Use that word. I'd much rather use that word. Okay, fine. Don't use the word visually impaired. That's bad. Okay. But then you meet someone who is low vision, who tells you, don't call me blind. And then they're like, okay, so I'll call you visually blind, visually unimpressed. What are you? And then, you know, you get a confusion. And then you get people say, I only want to be called blind. Don't call me visually impaired. You know, only use blind in these contexts. Don't say it in this way. And it's just, are you serious? I've got to seriously navigate this world of the right language just to appease whoever you are at that moment? Because bear in mind, the next person comes along may have a totally different viewpoint and be completely on the opposite side of this argument. Like me, you know, probably. So, you know, that's the problem. It doesn't mean anything then. You know, if you meet two blind people and they feel differently about it, and you will, then you can't say there's a consensus. There is no consensus. There's no right or wrong. There is your opinion. And and people are welcome to their opinion, but don't pretend that you're speaking for an entire group of people. It doesn't work. That's why I sometimes hate the word community, because it's like, it's almost used against you. Like, well, the community agrees. Really? You've spoken to every person on planet Earth who's blind or low vision, and they all agree with you? That's impressive. Because, God, if we could get to that stage in our politics, we'd do all right as a world, wouldn't we? But I somehow don't think that's the case.
That way. That's the trouble.
Well, by force. And that's kind of my point as well. There are people who want to force you to have a viewpoint or tell you, well, you know, that's the wrong way to look at this.
Yeah, but that's the extremes. Sorry? That's the extremes.
Yeah, but those are the loudest voices, Sean. That's the problem.
Either
you look
side
at social
of the
media,
argument.
I see it all the time. Yes, they are. They're the loudest voices, and the loudest voices tend to get the traction. That's the problem. And that's why I fight back against it in this particular case, because I feel, no, I'm not interested in it. It's a lot of nonsense. It achieves absolutely nothing. You're wasting your time with these discussions and debates around language. You know, I see this around ableist language, people saying, oh, you know, we must fight. My recent one, and this is a perfect example of it. I saw it recently on LinkedIn, the world's biggest bragging network. And, you know, people were saying,
stop saying that.
You know, ableist language, you must fight against it at all costs, or you're not an ally or a member of the disability community. Really? Yeah. That's the message you're sending out? If I don't agree with you, I'm not part of your group? Well, you know what? I don't want to be part of your group anyway, because you sound like a little snitch. You sound like a horrible person that I don't want anything to do with.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want
you're
any
banished,
part of
Stephen
that.
Scott.
Good. I'm glad. I'm happy.
Take off your blind uniform and get out.
I'll take out my Meta Ray-Ban glasses, chuck my white cane in the bin, and, you know, walk in front of a bus, probably. Yeah. I mean, that's what irritates me. Is this you will feel this way, or else you're not part of my group. I'm sorry, what, I'll be 5 years old in a playground? Grow up. Live in the real world. The real world doesn't work like that. You know, are you going to stop every person who uses the word crazy because you don't like the word crazy because you think that word offends someone? Well, you know what? Maybe it's on that individual to ask themselves, why is this word offending me so much? Is this word offending me? And why am I choosing it? Because first off, you don't get offense given to you. You take offense. Let's just mark that off right now. You're choosing to take offense. Maybe choose not to. Maybe choose there are bigger, more important things in the world than that use of that word. Look, if you don't like it, that's on you. Good for you. But that's your problem. It ain't mine. And it ain't the majority of the world's either. You know, there are people out there trying to work out how they're going to pay their next mortgage bill or feed their family. And you turn around and say to them, well, I wish you hadn't used the word that. No appropriate word. I don't like that. Really? That's what you're going to hit them on? They're having a bad enough day? You think that the entire world revolves around you? Get a grip. Seriously. I just, it infuriates me. It really infuriates me because it's so narrow-minded and it actually causes, you know, the other word they love to use, these advocates, is, well, it causes harm. It causes harm. Does it cause harm? Does it cause harm? Or do you cause harm by going round and vilifying people for using the wrong word because you don't like it? when the rest of us couldn't care less.
I think that's
You're not doing me any favours.
This is, as Stan said at the end, context is everything.
Yeah.
That's all I really care about. I don't care what words you use. It's context. I don't quite go with everyone takes offence and it's not given. There is a line in the sand. There's a spectrum to offence as well.
As is everything in life. Two things can be true at the same time. I see it all the time.
I'm just saying, you can't always say, no matter what I say,
but are you
can't be offended.
Yes, but are you saying to me if someone says, I was traveling home the other night and God, that traffic was crazy. Are you telling me that if someone then goes absolutely ape about the fact they've used the word crazy, that is somehow not them taking offence? That you think offence was given in that statement?
No.
You think they were referring to cars as crazy? As offending people who are mentally ill?
That's the context. Again, there's a line in the sand. There's a spectrum there. Now, where that line in the sand is to what people find offensive, as a majority of people will say, no, of course not. That's absolutely fine.
We don't win any favors with this nonsense. We don't. If you want to be part of society, if you want to be part of a society, you got to learn to live in it. All right, you can't. I've said it before. Blind Island might exist in some people's minds, but it does not exist in reality. It only exists in your head, and you can have these arguments in bubbles, and you can hate me for saying this stuff. But the reality is, you're causing yourself more issues because you're confusing everyone else as well. I have had it so many times now. I see people say, "Well, I actually saw a taxi driver say to me, well, you can say you're blind. Obviously, I can't use that word. But where have you heard that from? Oh, I read it online. That's what they said to me. I read it online.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone's put up online, don't use the word blind. And of course, then you get someone else say, well, you must use the word blind. It's totally confusing. It's just ridiculous. And look, we've seen this in other areas of life, how when you start changing meanings of things, it just creates confusion and division, and it doesn't solve anything. Do we want to be unified, part of society? Do we not realize that actually most of us get things done in our life because of our dependence on others and our independence? I don't know. I just feel people have got to get real about this. They really. I know I go on about it, but I just.
Yeah, but they would feel they are getting real about it. But I don't think this is the majority of people, and the majority of us out there, blind or visually impaired people out there, when they come across this, they deal with it in a normal, humane.
Yeah, I agree.
Polite way, a way that's in the context of the situation.
But as we all know. In our lives, and especially from the people I've met, and taxi drivers are a good gauge of this because obviously they're meeting a lot of people through the course of their day. They may meet a lot of disabled people. The problem is you'll remember the interactions that jar the most. We're not Labradors, right? Labradors only ever hear the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to be more Labrador in our life. Labradors only remember the good stuff. And, in our lives, it's the exact opposite. Humans are the exact opposite. We only remember the bad stuff. We just get stuck on he was negative, this happened, that happened. That's what we get stuck on. So if someone says to you, don't say that, that'll stick more than anything else, right? And that's the problem. That sticks and it affects other people.
Yeah, maybe. Does depend who says it, but yeah.
And what? Of course. If someone's shouting and yelling at you and saying you're this, you're that, that's totally different. I'm not talking about that. Two things can be true at the same time.
No, they can't.
Not in your mind. Right, look, stick around. This is Double Tap.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
I think Stan knew exactly what he was doing when he sent that message. Well done, Stan. You got a Stephen Scott rant for free.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay, let's go to Rowana.
To the Double Tap hosts, my name is Rowana Bacchus, and I am visually impaired. Thank you for devoting an entire week to honouring the 200th anniversary of Braille. I use Braille on a regular basis on my new Braille Note Touch Plus. This device was purchased by the Florida Division of Blind Services. From Rowana Bacchus.
There you go. Well, thank you for that, Rowana. Sorry, I thought it said Rona, but there you go. Rowana, appreciate that message. Thank you for that. And listen, I'm glad you enjoyed the Braille Week. We're going to do that again soon. because, look, we always talk about Braille through the course of the program one way or another anyway, so it's not that we just focus on it in the 1 week, but it did give us an opportunity to really just focus in on some key areas of discussion, and I think some really much needed areas of discussion that you don't tend to hear. Again, it's that getting real part of it, what is going to happen to Braille down the line. We can't just keep burying our heads in the sand and saying, oh, it'll all be fine and Braille's great. Yeah, okay, but if no one's being taught it anymore, or children or less children are being taught it now than they ever were, I think we've got to get real. What's going to happen to it over the course of time. So
people really liked that week, actually. And I think it was different because of the conversations it brought up. It was. You did a good job there, Stephen. Well done.
Well, it was a team effort.
Okay, thanks.
Was it though? Were you involved? I can't remember.
No, you did it all.
Did I? Oh well, great. I'm wonderful. Okay, Tyler's up next.
Hey, Shaun, Stephen, T-Bone here from Canada. Just checking in about Macs versus PCs. I listened to your recent podcast about it. It was really informative because I'm redoing my workspace, and it gave me a lot to think about. However, I do feel your conclusion was kind of confusing. I was hoping you could clarify it. You kind of finished by saying the best setup right now is a Mac Mini M4, so that you have obviously Mac OS, but that is loaded with an app called Parallels, some kind of VM software to run Windows, in case you need that. I found that a really weird recommendation. Maybe that wasn't your final conclusion, but that's what it sounded like. Because to me, the VoiceOver on macOS is the worst screen reader of all the desktops. So to make that the main computer on your desk is strange to me. But
wow,
yeah, because I feel screen readers, someone should go probably with some kind of Windows-based system, unless there's a very specific application on Mac that you needed. But to me, it's very, very rare. So please clarify your stance if you could. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Take care, guys.
All right. Calm down, Stephen. Calm down. Think of your heart.
Hold me back. Hold me back. Worst screen reader? Are you kidding me? Well, I mean, okay, it's not perfect, I'll admit. But, okay, I don't know.
But that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. When you talk about our conclusion there, T-Bone, nice name, by the way. T-Bone.
I've got Tyler on my list. I don't know where T-Bone came from, but sorry, T-Bone.
That's what I saw as well. Anyway, talking about the conclusion, when we talked about, Mac versus Windows, the conclusion was kind of based on that they both have their limitations and they both have their plus points as well. That there's no perfect operating system out there. Some people absolutely love VoiceOver on the Mac, by the way. They find it's so much easier, so much more customizable than, anything on Windows. So the conclusion we came to of the M4 Mac Mini, because there's no denying the hardware is absolutely fantastic for the price. It's so powerful. Having the Mac Mini and running Windows as a virtual machine on there, you get the best of both worlds. You have the Windows side and you can take all the benefits off that, and the Mac side you can use as well. So I think that was the reason behind the conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's best of both worlds, isn't it? That's what all I get from it. I mean, look, the virtual machines are not perfect either. They've got their own issues, and I've been talking about those recently. The ideal setup, I guess, is to have both, but not everyone can have that, and certainly not for most people. You've got to make a choice. I think it depends, again, on what you're doing. And I would say we can split it quite simply. If you're into the creative world, if you're into or wanting to learn in video editing and you want to get into that, if you're low vision perhaps, and maybe you want to get into illustration or, photoshopping and all that kind of stuff, I think that is where in the creative space, Apple excels. But if you're Mr. or Mrs. Spreadsheet, or, you love a Word document, or you're browsing the web, or, as far as that, maybe that goes, maybe you're on Facebook, maybe you're on Mastodon, or maybe you're, just browsing the web essentially through that kind of stuff, then PC might be better for you. Again, I think it all depends on where you might have started in life. Most of us tend to start somewhere and we kind of stick with it. That was certainly the case for me in Mac. I've always been there with Mac, but I like Windows too. Yeah.
I was about to jump down your throat. I mean, that's such a long-standing, I was going to say old-fashioned opinion that Apple is all about the creative and, Windows is all about business. But it's kind of still true. I've got to say, it is. You talk about word processing. The only thing I would say, and you could kind of say this is creative, I always think of using WordPress. On the Mac, going through that dashboard, the back end of WordPress was a joy because of the item picker.
Yeah.
And going back to Windows. So look, another point of, some things work well on one OS and, not so well on another. So, I think you're right.
Okay, I hope that clears it up for you, T-Bone. Let us know. Let's move on to Gregory.
Hey, this is Gregory. Just thought I'd drop you a little note. How dare you denigrate the P word? Potential, peak. Hey, the more the merrier. These glasses are coming out right and left. I love using this type of technology. The potential is here. The potential is coming. I still use my Celeste glasses. I have the Ray-Bans. And I'm going to pull the trigger on the Echo Visions, I do believe, and Google. Bring it on, Google. The more the merrier. The potential is coming. So, guys, thanks for all you do. Thanks for all the waffling, the banter, and a little tech thrown in.
I feel you see that quite a lot, Gregory.
I think that's his outro.
That's his out, yeah. That's his landing strip right there.
So I'm guessing that's because I said that, I'm kind of sick of the word potential, the P word, as we started to refer to it, because all the tech that we hear about, especially when it comes to AI, the potential to help us is incredible. And I totally get it. But at some point, it's like, okay, when is this potential actually going to appear? Come substantial. So yeah, I totally get it. Look, I'm not against any the examples you gave there of smart glasses, smart wearables. Yeah, absolutely. The more, the merrier. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what works. And I'm excited to see what happens with the Google glasses. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you.
No, I don't. I say, let's get an order to this. I don't want 1,000 products in the market that are flooding the market with 1,000 ideas. And every time I go into Facebook, there's another one. Oh, here's this one. Here's that one. This new one.
Yeah, I saw one.
I can't constantly keep buying these things. So I kind of want to see the dust settle, I think, for me. I want to see where it all...
You don't have to buy everything.
No, I don't. No, I know. But I'm saying I think a lot of people do. Gregory does. He wants to buy everything. And that's good if you want to do that. But for me, it's a case of let's see where the dust settles. I think also, if I'm honest, we're kind of moving into this new world where you don't really see the dust settle anymore, do you? You kind of just end up with a bunch of products and this is the way it goes. Because the reality is this is all really software driven. The hardware is going to become more relevant down the line. I mean, robotics is going to become a thing down the line, and then that'll become a whole new conversation.
Yeah, but not in this context.
But not in this context. It's the software that's driving glasses. All of this. Yeah. So the hardware is kind of just the add-on to it, right? It's the form factor it takes. So yeah, I think that's why I'm sticking with the Meta Ray-Bans. I feel I've put the money into these. I'm happy to hang on to these for now. But if Google come up with something incredible, well, okay, I'll be interested. But
I've got no brand loyalty here.
No, not in this one. No.
Yeah, I will give you that. It's all about the functionality. And on that, actually, let me just say this. I think after saying, I don't care about the Meta AI at all, I don't miss it. We didn't have it in the UK for the longest time. It's not bad. It's actually, it seems to, if I could speak, it seems to have improved quite a lot. The detail I get now, I just say, look and tell in detail. That's it. I don't, it's not a flowery prompt. It's really good. And actually, I used it to identify some, stuff out of the cupboard and fridge the other day, and it did really well. I will say it does seem to have improved. I did ask it what version of Llama it's using, and it said 3.1. I know 4 is, due out anytime soon for the glasses. So, yeah, I'm quite impressed with how it's working at the minute.
Interesting to see if the new version of Llama comes with the new glasses, because there is talk of new glasses this year. So, obviously, updated hardware, improved processor, probably improved camera. That could be quite interesting to see what they do. It's funny, right? I did something for the very first time last week. I'd gone to the local 24-hour garage for the gas station, if you like, and I had gone there because I thought, okay, got the Meta AIs or the Meta glasses with Meta AI in them. I can go shopping now. So I went into the shop, picked up a sandwich, and I just said, hey Meta, what is this? And it told me what the sandwich was. And I said, and I actually took the sandwich away because I thought I turned around when I picked it up because I thought I don't want it picking up the entire. If it says something weird, then I know it's not reading the sandwich, right? But it did. It totally read the sandwich. It was 100% correct. When I bit into the sandwich, what it said it was what it was.
It's always a gamble.
That's a gamble, yes. But it worked. And, buying drinks, I was able to find out what types of drinks they had rather than just, like water. I tend to just pick up a bottle and hope for the best. It's a lot of just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Being able to know what it was and getting that quick reaction was brilliant. I was really impressed.
Yeah, me too.
It's the simple things like this, right? I mean, that to me is the daily saviors. It's not the big, massive, wandering around a city that you've never been before. The reality is it's just, I want to just buy a drink and actually know what's available. Because again, it's that thing of if someone helps you in a store, they'll help you get what you want. But they won't say, oh, by the way, that thing is also on sale, or did you know they've got a new version of this? They're not going to do that. And so you need to do a little bit of experimentation yourself to know, right, what is out here? What is available here? Yeah. And, being able to buy the drink and, know the contents of it. It's like one of those fruit drinks, right? And I'm like, well, what fruit is in it? Is it peach? Is it orange? Is it apple? What is it? Because I want to know. I just want to grab a drink and go. It just, again, it gave me that little bit of independence that I've never been able to do that before.
I think it's improved, but I still, reliability isn't 100%, nowhere near. No. Accuracy, I should say, isn't 100%, which is why, I did try it out for navigation reasons and, still not great at all for the information that we need, obviously. But for the example you gave there, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Okay, let's go to Juan, who's up next.
Hey, Double Tap. I've been using the Meta AI for a while now. I'm also using live AI on the Meta glasses. It's interesting because it will tell you what's around you. However, it won't tell you if your coffee cup moved to the other side of the desk.
Thank you.
Neither will it tell you if you're about to bump into somebody. You need to keep asking it. It's kind of annoying because I'm walking down the sidewalk or pavement, whatever you guys call it, going toward the park, and with 2 dogs in the front and 1 dog in the back on the wagon. And I keep asking it, is there pedestrians? No, there's no pedestrians. And it seems like the more you ask it, the voice that they use for Meta AI gets angry at you. No, there's no pedestrians. And sometimes when you do see a pedestrian, they're so close to you that it's like, why bother by then? Because you can already hear the people. However, the other day it did say, oh yeah, there's 2 people and they're holding hands and they're a couple and they're walking down the park and there's these green trees and the grass and the sidewalk. And that was cool. But Meta Live AI, it could be better if it would tell you ahead of time, oh, there's a person coming up or something, but you have to keep asking it, and that's the annoying part.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reality, I think, of all of these. I mean, again, although there are different options out there like ChatGPT and the Google one, just escaped my mind, Gemini, thank you. And then, of course, Llama from Meta, they're all kind of roughly on the same level at the minute. No one's kind of pushed it to the next step. Or, I think it's partly because of accuracy. That's probably the reality. There's a big issue with accuracy there. And, when we do, these companies, although they're moving very quickly, they are conscious that, if they screw up, they'll just fall behind because there's too much competition. So as much as they're all keen to move forward, they're all kind of almost in lockstep at the minute in terms of features because once one comes up with a feature, the next one comes up with the same feature, the next one comes up with the same feature.
They've definitely got the technology to do what you're asking, as in being proactive with the scanning and letting you know. I think it's a case of, they're holding back because the processing power needed. Let's think about this. If you're having to prompt it, then it's having to do an action, process an action. If you're saying, tell me when, then it's constantly processing what it can see and looking out for that rather than, almost going in sleep mode until you prompt it. So it's all about the processing. I mean, Sam Altman came out and said it cost $1 million to process all the time that someone says thank you to AI at the end of asking a question and the AI responding.
Yeah.
It costs them $1 million a day or whatever it may be. But that's exactly the point. There is a cost to this processing. So I think that's the reason. But of course, as you say, Stephen, as soon as one of them drops this feature, they are all going to do it as well.
Yeah, it's also they're working, I think, to try and make it more efficient to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
The amount of, let's say it takes 2 server farms to do what you want it to do, or at least to do what it does right now, and it takes 7 server farms to do what you want it to do, which is totally fine, I get it. But, think about what that means. I mean, there was a story recently about, I think it was in America somewhere, a data center that had been built, and it was basically because it required so much water consumption, it had pretty much dried out an entire town. People were turning on their faucets and their taps and getting absolutely nothing.
It's hard to get your head around that, isn't it? The amount of computing power and energy it takes, it's almost so immense that you can't really picture it, but it's absolutely true. And that, the whole $500 billion investment we had a while back with Trump and a few other the big tech companies, it needs to happen, or we need to say, let's just hold back on this, and we have to slow this down until we find a more efficient way to do it. And
we know what's going to happen, don't we? That option is not going to be on the table. Slowing down, not making money. This is the problem. They're moving far too quickly, and I think the social media documentary that I watched years ago, the big Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, when they did the follow-up, which was a talk on AI dilemma, which was, basically don't go through all this again. Just don't, yeah. But also just don't make the same mistakes again. The mistakes that were made, the things that were just because of just this obsession with growth and this continual growth
of being first as well.
But we're past that point. We've passed it because all the companies that are now involved are keen to move forward. And if any company turns around and says, well, we're ethically going to hold back, and they'll just be left behind. Just left behind.
Yeah. I think it won't change until it starts to affect us as individuals, until we start seeing, rolling blackouts or whatever, because we need the energy to keep the AI running. Then we might start thinking about it. But right now, we don't see the effects of it at all.
All these people I hear from over the years who are all Mr. and Mrs. Ethical, and I don't believe in this and I don't believe in that. Then they get something that comes along that's absolutely brilliant. And then that company's record on whatever they've had done in the past just seems to disappear right out the window. Just goes right out the window. It's like, well, equally this thing makes my life easier, so I'll just look over the past of this company for this particular occasion. I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go, actually, we're talking about energy consumption. Stuart's got something for us, something very specific to Scotland, I think, but let's see what he has to say.
Hi, guys. I've just had a full central heating system and solar panels installed completely free of charge. The work was initiated by an organisation called WarmWorks, who works with Warmer Homes Scotland. All I had to do was confirm that I was a homeowner and that I was in receipt of personal independence payments. They then carried out an assessment of my home to identify my needs. The whole process took around 8 months from application to the works being completed. I believe that I will have halved my winter electricity bills, normally around £400 per month. I don't have gas. And almost eliminated my summer bills due to the equipment that has been installed completely free of charge. They provided radiators throughout my house, a heat pump, solar panels, and battery storage. I only found out about this scheme because my daughter got talking to a taxi driver who knew someone who had just heard of it. Clearly, this wonderful scheme is not very well publicised, so I think it would be really helpful if you could give it a shout out. I'm sure there must be many disabled people who could benefit from this scheme. Yours warmly, Stuart Duncan.
Yeah, very warm.
That's very good. I've been trying to get something, cavity wall installation through a scheme like this here in England, and I've been trying for 6 years. And every time it gets approved, and yeah, you can definitely have it, and then it's, the funding's been withdrawn. So I totally see the benefits of this, of course, especially with the cost of energy now.
Yeah, there is a big danger, though, on a wider scale, that with the rollback, it seems, or maybe not in terms of real terms yet, of actual change, but there's more talk now of abandoning the net zero targets that a lot of countries, specific countries, let's just say, have been, previously interested in doing, now less so. Can't think why. All of a sudden, there's been this handbrake shift on this, but yeah, there has been, and it has obviously going to have major impacts. And that certainly, I know in England, for example, the government there are being advised to abandon those targets, which a lot would mean, I guess, a lot of that funding would go. But I have heard of these schemes. It's funny, when I go on Facebook, I see a lot of adverts for these kind of things, and I think, is this real? I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true, right? It's like, oh, it'll cost you a penny and we'll do it all for you. And you're like, really? But that's interesting, your experience, Stuart. You've obviously had this done, and that kind of gives us a little bit of hope as to the potential here. So, yeah, good to know that scheme exists in Scotland. That's good to know. Thank you for that,
Good
Stuart.
old Scotland.
Scotland's great, isn't it? It's the best country in the world.
Lovely.
We've invented everything. We fix everything.
All right, calm down.
Don't get any thanks for it. Okay, let's go to Grace. I always love hearing from Grace.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, Shaun. It's Grace here again. I've been on the phone to me, and she reminded me about the story when I applied for PIP. I had to go for an interview, obviously. So I got into this room, and this lady was interviewing me. And the first question she asked me was, do you know when you need the loo? And I thought, what? And I said, well, do you? And then there was a silence. And then she said to me, how much can you see? And I said, I've got two artificial eyes. Yeah, but how much can you see? And she went on and on till I got fed up. So what I did, I took my eyes out, put them on the table in front of her. I said, what does that tell you? I think she got fed up with me in the end. So what a stupid thing. I told her I had artificial eyes, and she's asking, how much can you see? Honest to goodness. Honestly, I just love this show. You always make me laugh, the two of you. Okay, lots of love to you both, and to me as well. Okay then, take care, bye.
Now, see, when we talk to Grace, we're talking to May as well now. You understand this? We're getting a 2-for-1 here on this one.
That's right. May is Grace's friend.
Yes.
Hello, May. How you doing?
Hello, May.
I love that.
Just a little bit of clarity on that. So we're talking about a personal independence payment, a benefit that's paid out to disabled people in the UK so far. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, fingers crossed that doesn't disappear. Can you believe a Labour government are going to possibly get rid of that?
Let's not get into politics, but yes, it's a scary time.
It's just a weird world we live in right now. But
and a lot of the time you need to go for a medical assessment in order to, when you apply for PIP. And
the most humiliating moments of your life, I'll tell you, that is the most humiliating.
Exactly that. Yeah. And it's those sort of questions. And you think, how are you qualified to judge if I should receive
If you can't even understand that. I'm amazed when you took your eyes out of your head, Grace, they didn't turn around and say, oh, can you see better now? Now you've actually, made the eyes able to see. Now you've taken these artificial ones away. You can
give them a clean.
Almost like they were blocking your eyes. You just no idea what people are going to say.
You laugh about it, but at
you have to laugh.
I mean, it's
horrible,
ridiculous. It is horrible.
And they actually they make you, they make you relive the worst moments of your life. I mean, you think about horrible things that happen to people, and then saying, okay, what I'd like you to do for the next few years, and every few years, is relive that worst experience of your life in front of someone who's going to ask you some deep and probing questions about it, and essentially not believe a word you're saying. I mean, my favourite is when they asked me, well, what are the chances of your eyes getting better? I said, well, you tell me.
Yeah.
Because if you can tell me the answer to that, I will be very happy. This is, will it get worse? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Clearly, neither are you. But you get this. It was a horrible, horrible experience.
It's just terrible. And you know what? I'm not against being assessed.
No,
I'm not against that. I'm against having a third party private profit company who's in charge of it, who are looking for reasons to deny you for no other reason than hitting numbers or whatever it may be.
I was refused my personal independence payment. I got it refused, and I found out later, because it was reinstated, thankfully, because of a wonderful woman, a charity called Deafblind Scotland. She was just amazing, and she helped me get it back. She found out that they had never even opened the envelope with the application in it. It had literally gone in a pile. You know, it was as if the piles of envelopes were coming in with all the applications, and they were just sort of tossing them into a pile, saying not interested. Just not because of any particular reason, just because that one just came in and we need to fill that pile up because we've only got so much time to deal with this lot over here. It was a horrible experience, but thankfully it was resolved. But yeah,
always get an advocate if you can. If you're going through,
go to a charity, go to speak to someone, because welfare advice is really important. And I know you might think, well, I can manage it myself. Trust me, you don't want to. You don't want to.
Yeah,
get some assistance with it. Anyway, I'm sure it's the same in other parts of the world. You can tell us your experiences, but we're out of time for today, as always. We'll catch you on the next one, of course. But thank you, as always, for your feedback, and do keep it coming. Yeah, absolutely. Email us, WhatsApp us, call us, all the usual ways. Get in touch with the show, and of course, we'll catch you on the next Double Tap.
Thank you. Bye-bye.